Okay, today we're going to look at how to find square root and cube root, okay? So when we talk about like multiplication and division, those two operations we call what? Multiplication is the what of division? Opposite, just like addition is the opposite of subtraction. Does anyone know what the square root would be the opposite of? No, not square root and cube root is basically, it's essentially doing the same thing. Yeah, it's the opposite of like squaring something or cubing something, okay? So that's what we need to think about today. When you square a number, it means you multiply it by what?
2.
No.
3.
You guys, that exponent just tells you how many times you multiply that number by itself. Thank you. Somebody in here is paying attention. By itself, okay? So when we think about the square root of a number, you need to ask what number times itself would give you the value underneath the square root, okay? So for this first one, if I wanted to find the square root of 9, you need to ask what number times itself is 9? 3, okay? So the square root of 9 is equal to 3.
How is it 3?
What did I just say, Charlie? You ask what number times itself is 9. Well, is 3 times 3 9? Charlie?
I think so, yeah.
No, I think so. Is 3 times 3 9?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so then the square root of 9 is equal to 3. All right, what about the negative square root of 64? Does anyone know what the square root of 64 is? What number times itself, Grayson, is 64? Think about what number times itself.
32. 8. 8 times 8.
8. 8 times 8 is 34, okay? Now, listen, okay? Stay with me. If there's a negative in front of this, what would I also want in my answer?
Negative 8.
Negative 8, okay? All right, so here's the deal. Whatever sign is in front of your square root, you carry that over to your answer. What about the square root of 49? What number times itself is 49? Somebody said it up there. 7. Now, what if you get to a number that you may not know the square root of, or what number times itself? That's where we're going to use our calculator, okay? So, now, can you put in plus or minus into your calculator?
Yes.
No, you can't. You can't put in both of those signs together, but what do you know should have what should be in your answer?
A plus or a minus?
Yeah, so go ahead and put that plus or minus in your answer. Here's how we type this in our calculator, okay? The first thing you're going to do, this button in the top left corner, is push the second button and then go straight down till you see the button that says x squared. Push that. It should bring up a square root sign. Did everybody have it?
Mm-hmm.
Then type in the number you're taking the square root of and hit equals. What do you get? 20. So, okay, whatever sign is in front of your square root, you bring over to your answer. Okay, what about this one? The square root of negative 49. What number times itself is negative 49?
Negative 1.
Okay, somebody, listen, hold on, stay with me. Somebody said negative 7. What's negative 7 times negative 7? Positive 49. So, can anybody tell me what happens when I have a negative underneath?
It becomes positive.
What happens when you type this in your calculator? Somebody try it.
Democrat error.
No, what does it say?
Denominator error.
Reason. Just read what it says on your calculator.
If you type in what?
Hey, listen. You have to do square root first, then negative 7. Some of you have to be careful about how you type this in your calculator. It should say domain error, okay? That means you have no solution. Here's the reason why. Listen, is it possible for you to multiply a number by itself and get negative 49? No, it's not. For this one?
Yeah, which one's the square root? Which second one?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, it's not because, listen, what two numbers do you have to multiply to get negative 49? Positive 7 and negative 7. Are those two numbers the same number? No. So, for square roots, this only applies to square root, not cube root. Please listen. For square root, if there's a negative underneath the square root sign, it's no solution. Okay? All right. Okay, next thing we're going to do is estimate. Now, we can estimate to the nearest whole number by first taking the square root, and then it'll be easy for us to estimate that to a whole number. Okay, so PJ, take the square root of 33 and tell me what you get, please.
5.744.
11.
Okay, that's fine. We can just put 5.74. Okay? All right, then PJ, can you estimate this to the nearest whole number? No, just look at it. What would you estimate 5.74 to? What's the nearest whole number?
5.7.
The nearest whole number.
6.
6. Yeah. Okay, so when it asks you to estimate, what 3 things do you think I want you to write on your paper? The problem, what you got when you typed it in your calculator, and then what you get when you estimate. Okay? You should be writing this down in your notes so you know what I expect to see on your work.
Why isn't it 11?
11? Did you type the square root of 33 into your calculator?
No.
Well, 11, what's 11 times 11? It's 121.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're going to take the square root of 121, then you get 11. The square root of 33 is 5.7446, whatever. Okay? No, not times 3. Remember, cube root is a number times itself. Okay? Or square root. All right. Reason. When you type this into your calculator, no, listen, is the negative underneath the square root or on the outside?
Outside.
Outside. So when you type it in your calculator, put negative, clear, hey, I'm talking to you. Clear your calculator, clear it all out. Negative, square root, 129. What do you get?
Negative 11.35.
Okay, now estimate that to the nearest whole number and tell me what you get.
Negative 11.
Very good. Okay, when's the only reason that you should put no solution? When the negative is where?
Inside.
Inside. It's okay if it's on the outside. Okay? Alright, last one like this. Kaylee, what about the square root of 250? Okay, and then what would you estimate that to?
16.
Very good. Okay, remember, whatever sign is in front of your square root carries over to your answer. Okay? Alright, I'm going to show you this one word problem. It says the distance that can be seen in the horizon from any distance is given by the formula d equals 1.22 times the square root of h. D represents distance. H represents the height that you are at. Okay? And it says, I think it's in Seattle, like the Space Needle or wherever, it says the observatory is 520 feet in the air. And it wants you to find out what distance can be seen when you are standing at the top of the observatory. So, where would you plug in the number 520? For the height or for the distance?
Height.
The height, right? So all you're going to do is say D is equal to 1.22 times the square root of what?
5.9.
520. Now, can you type this whole part into your calculator?
No.
Yes, you can. Okay, type in 1.22, hit times, and then put the square root of 520. I want every single person checking this in your calculator. Because if you guys aren't doing this with us as we're going through notes, you're not going to know how to do it on your own. Okay, now on this one reason, I want you to round to the nearest tenth. Tell me what you get.
How do you do that?
Well, what number is in the tenths place?
30.82.
Okay, anybody else want to try?
Dang.
Kaylee?
27.80.
Yes, but instead of putting 80, I would just put 0.8. Good.
Oh.
What number is in the tens place always, you guys? The number that comes after the decimal. Okay? We should know this. We've done it so much. All the time. Most of the time we're rounding things to the tens place. There's one number after the decimal. Okay? So, 27.8. Yes?
C.
Okay? Dylan, are you staying with me?
Yeah.
Alright, last thing we're going to talk about cube roots and then we're done.
We're done with it, no?
Yep. Okay, now listen, Cube root is the same thing. It just means a number that's been multiplied by itself and then multiplied by itself again, right? Like when I say 3 cubed, it's 3 times 3 times 3. So this is the opposite, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you how to put this in your calculator. Pay attention. It's similar, but it's different. The first thing you want to do is type the number 3, okay? So stay with me. Everybody type the number 3 first. Then we're going to do cube root. You hit second again, but instead of hitting x squared, you hit the button above it. It's a little arrow. It should bring up a square root that has a little x in front of it. Does everybody have that?
Yes.
Once you have that, then you can type in 343.
Mine doesn't have the arrow.
Okay,
Mine's
hey,
weird.
Dylan, remember I told you need to pay attention when I show this on the calculator because I'm going to give you your calculator back.
Yes.
Okay, so you need to be watching up here. So 3 first, second, hit the arrow so it has the square root with the x. Type your number, what do you get? 7. So the cube root of 343 is 7.
Oh, mine has a cube root button.
Yeah, if you have a different calculator, yours might be in a different order. So I will help you as soon as we finish with our notes, okay? All right, I want everyone to try this. Type in your calculator the cube root of negative 729. Now, cube roots, we can take negatives. Square roots, you cannot. So, type the 3, hit the cube root with the x, then negative 729. Grayson, what'd you get? Very good. Right? That should make sense to us because, listen, what happens when you multiply negative 9 times negative 9? What do you get? Come on, somebody knows this. What's negative 9 times negative 9? Positive 81.
Yes, sir.
What's positive 81 times negative 9? Negative 729, right? So that's why it's okay for cube roots to have a negative, okay? All right, somebody try this one. Here. Dylan, I want you to try it. Well, everyone else should be trying it too. Cube root 72. Second arrow. Hit second at the top. Nope, nope, nope. You gotta hit second first, then your arrow.
What are you doing second?
Second, make sure it has the little x in front of your square root. Type in your number. What'd you get, Dylan?
4.1.
Okay. Now estimate that and get what? 4. Okay, last one. Abby, I want you to tell me. Cube root of negative 2024. So remember, type a 3 first.
You have to put that first.
I don't know. That's why. Give me a second. Let me finish this one and I'll look at it. Okay. So 3, hit the cube root that has the x in front of it, and then negative 2024, and tell me what you get, Abby. Do you have the little x in front of your cube root?
That's what I got.
Make sure you put a negative sign, not a minus. Yeah, hey, listen, that's the other thing. On your calculator, you can't click the minus button for a negative. You have to use the negative button. It's down at the bottom in the white, okay? All right, Abby. Okay, and then round that to get what? Negative 13. Good. Okay, listen. On today's assignment, you guys, do you actually have a lot of work to show?
No.
No, you're just typing things in your calculator. However, I want you to write down the problem and then write your answer. If you get a decimal, you need to write